It's this statue. Have you ever seen anything like it?
That's a pin.
Cthulhu the Cosmic Abyss is a first-person investigation thriller, and despite its Lovecraftian themes that are normally more related to sort of like olden day settings, this actually takes place in the future in 2053. You play a guy named Noah who walks around with an AI that helps him, and he's a part of a team that basically investigates occult occurrences and so on. He lands up having to investigate a whole bunch of disappearances with some deep sea mining operations that also involve some rich billionaire dude. The game straight off the bat reminded me a bit of a game called Still Wakes the Deep. And while I liked that game quite a bit, it sort of fell a bit flat because it didn't have much more to do than just sort of getting through the game. It almost teetered on being a bit of a walking simulator. Whereas with this, it's a lot more involved. There's a lot of investigation, there's a lot of intricacy, there's a lot of puzzle solving. Also at the same time, this reminds me a bit of Stasis Bone Totem. There's some similarities with that and Still Wakes the Deep in a way, but all of those come together they all fit in the same circle, let's put it that way. In the Cosmic Abyss, you have this sort of feeling almost like an old school PC point and click adventure in a way. Also reminds me a bit of The Dig. It's one of my favorite games ever, and this is similar to that in that you are also you're someone who gets sort of stuck in a place that's very alien to them, and you have to figure out what's going on.
Remember the voices Marsh heard last night? Hear the voices of those who came before us.
Going back to what I was saying about how it's more intricate and there's more investigating, this game is full of gadgets and scanning and items around you and things that, materials and things that you need to find. You can walk around an area. I walked around an area or many areas many times without finding something until I realized that something I was looking for belonged to an element that I had analyzed before using this analysis sort of tool that you can use on things that you're finding. And then once I had that, or once I knew what to look for, I could scan for that element and then find something in a big pile of bones or on the ground that I just didn't notice before but could have noticed. So there's this whole scanning system which is actually quite clever and interesting, because as you find stuff and analyze it and get these things, you can start scanning for documents or electronic equipment or a specific type of element, or more importantly, a combination of them. So you need, for example, some sort of ancient blood, but also mixed in together with a certain sort of type of stone element or something like that. And then you will find the thing that you're looking for if you go scanning around. So without the scanning, I mean, in the beginning, I actually struggled quite a bit to get used to the game because I wasn't used to exactly what I needed to be doing. So I literally walked over some evidence and some clues that I needed right at the beginning, and I was pulling my hair out trying to figure out what to do next, only to realize it was right there all along. But as you get more into the groove, you sort of start picking up, what to do and how the whole system works. Now, one thing that's kind of cool with this is that from that investigation point of view, this really does feel like you're investigating something. It's quite tricky, it's quite difficult, and you have this whole mind map system where you bring up all of the clues and everything you've got, and you can actually move them around, connect them together, and so on. And then every now and then a hypothesis will sort of form out of something that you found, and then you need to find the evidence needed to put it on that item so that you can sort of get the solution to that, and that might give you what you need to do next. So with all of that, there's also a bit of an upgrade system, or not an upgrade system, but you find these things that sort of power you up with some slots that you can put some power-ups into. But there's also a whole element in this game of like corruption and how you do the missions, and they can also affect these things that you upgrade that can actually become sort of corrupted and things over time. It's all very interesting and it's all very in-depth. There's a lot of atmosphere because of the type of world and the theme and all of that stuff that's going on. Something worth mentioning, though, is that it's not a horror game. It is a horror environment or a horror theme, but it is not a horror game. So it's more of a thriller, puzzle-solving investigation game. So you need to know that going in. This is a game where I've spent a lot of time walking around, scanning things, looking at things, reading things, putting things together, walking around again, trying to figure out where you need to be, diving into water, all that sort of stuff. And some of these puzzles are very difficult. They're very tricky. And they're not just sort of play puzzles that are shooed into other adventure games or action adventures to make people feel a little bit smart, like an Uncharted game or a God of War. These are quite intricate, and there might be sometimes many different elements involved to perform, let's say, a sort of ritual or something you need to do to make something happen. So that's a core element of this game, and you're either going to like that or you're not. If you do like that and you get stuck into it, though, the reward for figuring something out can be really cool. You really have that sort of, eureka moment where you're like, oh, I've got it. Like, I figured this out. I know what to do now. And then you sort of excitedly go running off to go and get that done. There are some assists in the game in terms of some AI assists and things you can put on as well, where if you put those on, you can then go to some clues and there will be like little AI assistance prompts that you can press. And if you press those, you're gonna, you'll get some extra clues that you can go through. And then I tested it once. I wanted to test it just for the sake of the review, but I was quite adamant that I wanted to try and figure everything out by myself. But there was one point where I landed up being quite stuck and I wasn't so sure, and it worked out quite well. I was actually quite stuck at that point, so when I put it on, I saw something, I read one of the clues, and it didn't just outright tell me the answer necessarily, but it was enough to make me go, oh, I think I know what I need to do now, and off I went. So I turned that off afterwards again to carry on by myself, but your miles may vary, but I have a feeling that if you're the kind of person who's going to play this game, there's a very good chance you're going to want the challenge. But at the same time, I think considering the cool atmosphere and the story and the whole Lovecraft aspect of it, there are going to be quite a few people who are interested in checking something like this out and playing it just for that atmosphere and the mystery of it and the theme and all that stuff. So those will be good. But the truth of the matter is, with a game like this, I think that once it's out and there's guides and things up and walkthroughs, people are going to be referring to those way more than using any of the assists. So either way, you're going to be pretty sorted. Something you need to know as well is that there's no combat in this game in any sort of traditional way. It's not very scary in that whole kind of way where you have to walk around and be watching what happens around every step. It's more like if you do something in the wrong direction, kind of like an old point-and-click adventure. It's more like you're treated to a little bit of a cutscene of how things went bad, and it's like, uh-oh, and it loads you back, and you try again. So you're not doing any sort of combat in this game. It really is about the investigation, the exploration, and unraveling the story. And when it comes to the story, the main character isn't particularly interesting up to the points that I played. The story itself is kind of cool. The things that you're unveiling about Cthulhu and all of that is cool just because of what it's based on. It's all really cool in that way. It's got a lot of that sort of mystery and the whole cosmic horror thing is fascinating always. But but it's nothing that's going to really be like a main reason to keep you going here. It's not like you have to play this for the story. I really think that when it comes down to it, this game is about playing it for the investigation. Now, I really like what this game is offering. I think to give my sort of final verdict on how I feel about it as far as I've played, I really like what it's doing. I like a lot of what's happening here, and I even think that some sort of broken down, minimized versions of what they're doing here could actually work quite well in a bigger game, like in an RPG or something else where they kind of add some of these investigative elements into that game to make that game better. But here it's the full deal, and it's tough to get through. It can be rewarding, and it's got a great vibe, and it's quite good looking too. Especially after a bunch of the performance issues were sorted with one of the pre-launch patches that we got, then suddenly everything sort of started coming together, and you can appreciate just how pretty some of these places look. But I can't recommend this to everyone because, number one, this genre just isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, and second, fans of this are going to love this kind of thing. So I think if you like this a lot, if you're really into this thing, you're going to really like this game. But it is still tough to recommend because I had such an experience with bugs and stability and crashes and all those sorts of things that I'm a bit afraid. Now, usually you would, when you're reviewing something, you sort of have this problem where you're trying to decide if you should be assuming that this is all going to be fixed at launch, or if you're going to sort of mark it down for not being perfect when you were already playing it pre-launch. And as we know these days, a lot of games get day one patches because everyone's cramming in all those final fixes and bug changes right at the end. I would be happy to say, ignore any of the issues I've had up till the launch day. Maybe the game launches perfect. However, just the kind of things I went through don't make me very confident. So I'm not happy to just completely say to you, yes, I recommend you check this out if you like this kind of game. So what I do recommend is that if you're into this sort of thing, keep an eye on this game. Maybe if you're planning on playing it near launch, I highly recommend you do a bit of investigating of your own, find out what sort of shape it's in, maybe check out a streamer or two, or just check online and see what your preferred platform is handling like before you decide to take that plunge. Because if that's the case and it's maybe not so ready at launch, you're going to want to hang on a bit, maybe get it a little bit down the line instead of right now. So that's my impressions of Cthulhu, the Cosmic Abyss. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button to let me know, and consider subscribing if you want to see more of the videos. Here's more videos for you to check out. I'll see you in the next one.